Hey, it's me. Welcome to the Paul Leslie Hour. It's a very special episode. We are joined by one of the absolute legends in music. Like so many great musicians, Mr. Lloyd Price comes from Louisiana. He's an inductee of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an inductee of the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame. I firmly believe he should be in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And it's a great pleasure to be speaking with you today.
Paul, thank you so much, and thank you for that nice introduction.
Absolutely. I've dreamt of interviewing you for years now, and I want to just tell the listeners a little bit about you. You're a recording artist, a songwriter. There's some songs that you've written and recorded that everybody knows. Personality is one, Lawdy, Miss Clawdy, and the number of artists that have recorded the work of Lloyd Price. My goodness, it's Fats Domino, it's Elvis Presley, Little Richard, the cream of the crop. So, most stories are best from the beginning. You come from Louisiana. Tell us, what was life like growing up?
Back in the 50s, right after World War II, it was very difficult. But as, each year just started getting better, especially in the part where as people realized that we all in the same neighborhood, all on the same boat. We need each other. So what Lawdy Miss Clawdy did, when I got the call to come down and record as the youngest black kid that ever made a record, I didn't know what to think about that because I just used to try to learn how to play piano and do music because I liked it. That was the main reason then, and it's the main reason now. But what happened, by me not knowing anything about what I was doing, and Dave Bartholomew was like the supervisor, inspector of everything, guided me through Lawdy Miss Clawdy. Well, that changed the whole social structure of the way people heard music and the way people integrated with each other. It gave them freedom. It gave them self-freedom and self-respect because everybody was uncomfortable the way the social structure was then. That record has been recorded 168 times.
Wow.
So you name but the Beatles, Paul McCartney, Joe Cocker, Wilson Pickett, just all the way down the line. It's 168 times. Brought respect to, I call it self-respect and self-freedom. And what that record did, the parents of they were the parents of the kids in the 60s. The kids of the 60s gave Martin Luther King enough juice because they had been fighting for almost 10 or 12 years to go to Washington with the Freedom March. I mean, I just can't tell you what I believe that what that record did. Also, all the way up to getting Barack in the White House, first black guy ever. It all of it stems from music. And Lawdy Miss Clawdy was the leader of the pack.
So you're a man who absolutely believes music can change things.
Oh, I watched it.
Yeah.
Look what happened with the English musicians, how they start copying everything we did. Not just all over the world, Japan, where they didn't speak English, Germany, all through Asia, and especially down in Australia. They love this music and love it to now. Right now, they love it. That music of the past.
You mentioned the name Dave Bartholomew, and he's someone maybe for our listeners, they wouldn't be as familiar with him. They should be, but not as familiar with him as they would maybe be Fats Domino. So I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about meeting Dave Bartholomew.
Well, Fats Domino, without Dave Bartholomew, there would have been no Fats Domino, and of course, there would not have been any rock and roll. That combination, Fats playing piano and Dave directing the horns and the beat with Earl Palmer and Lee Allen out of New Orleans, there would not be rock and roll today. if you recall, Jerry Wexler was down there with Atlantic Records. They started in 1948, and Jerry Wexler was a journalist at Cashbox. So the music was coming out so fast from New Orleans, they had to have a name for it. Jerry Wexler named it rock and roll. Before, it was all music. But on the black records, they would put race music. So when it turned to rock and roll and the young white kids started buying the record, it made it more palatable and more easier for them to take that record home, because they couldn't take it home if it had race record on it. Dave Bartholomew, I call him the sire of dark blues music, because he had Fats Domino in 1940, I think it was 49, when he had the Fat Man. That opened the door for Billy Ward and the Dominoes, a 60-minute man. And in 1952, they was looking for something younger, and I recorded Lord and Miss Clawdy. Of course, Charles Brown, Amos Milburn, Roscoe Gordon, all these guys was back there. Pee Wee Creighton, T-Bone Walker. I know a lot of all your audience never heard of these people. But these folks were the one that laid down the pattern of how we are where we are today from that music. Guitars and drums.
While we're on the topic of Fats Domino, this album of yours, This Is Rock and Roll, you do a couple of songs that Fats Domino also recorded. I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about the man, Fats Domino, who we recently lost.
Fats Domino was just such a great guy. He played on my first 5 records. He was there for Lord and Miss Clawdy. That's him, and that great introduction nobody has ever been able to duplicate up until this day. He was on, oh man, if you didn't get Fats Domino on the session at New Orleans, it was not likely you was going to have a hit. He was on Shirley Lee, Frankie Ford, Huey Lewis and the News. So it was all the same band out of Cosmo Studio there on North Rampart Street. It was Fats Domino and Dave Bartholomew.
There was an album not too long ago that was released from Paul Schaefer, and when I got the album, my eyes immediately saw Just Because. And that made me wonder, who do you think of all of the artists, who did the best interpretation of a Lloyd Price song?
I think, there were 2, actually. Neil Diamond, you got to hear his Stagger Lee. And John Lennon, he talked about the record up front and and then he went right into Just Because. I saw that as a true honor. I was very pleased to see such a prolific writer as John Lennon thought that this song should be recorded by him. It was just amazing. And I haven't heard Paul Schaefer, and Paul's a good friend of mine. I didn't even know he had done it.
Paul Schaefer, he actually sang a couple of lines from Just Because over the phone, and it was really cool.
Paul is my man. I didn't know he had done that.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about this album, This Is Rock and Roll. I really, really love it. Makes me want to exercise. It's lively music. What made you want to record this album?
Well, Paul, I hadn't recorded in a very long time, and I always felt that the bass was there because music lovers love music lovers. There's nothing wrong. Loves music. There's nothing wrong with the music of today, but it's all desktop, and you don't hear, the real mistakes that turn out to be right on the record with live musicians. And I just think until you see a very live concert without mimicking the music that was recorded at the studio, you haven't seen anything. But because it all looks alike, all the dances are the same, everything is the same. I would suppose they said that about rock and roll in the earlier days. But at least there was a beginning, a middle, and an ending in the song. You knew exactly where the top began, and you knew, where the ending was. And young teenagers back during that time could just take a nickel or a quarter and put it in the jukebox and let the song tell the girlfriend or the boyfriend how they felt about each other. Why I went back and did this record, I believe that that market is still there. They're called baby boomers. And I wanted to make sure I didn't get that far away from the bass, but kind of like update the music like I did. I'm Walking, Fats Domino, and then his Blueberry Hill, which I thought was a classic, and put a big band behind it to keep my hand on that group of people. I just wanted the difference I wanted them to hear was the music. Try to keep the melody where it was, and just add a few things to it, to get it out of the 1950s. Yet, they know that song is from there because it's both of them million sellers. And mixed it with some temporary music, some new stuff I had written. Just put it out there and get right in the middle. Maybe the desktop customers would hear it, and maybe they won't. But there's not a sales by date on the record. So I figured I just lay it out there and let it sell. And I hadn't tried that for, many years. Many years I hadn't tried that. I was, too busy in other stuff. But I liked the way it turned out. I recorded 27 tunes to get to 10, where I felt comfortable enough that I could touch both basses, the now bass and the bass that in the past. And I'm really, really happy about the way it turned out. This is rock and roll.
And one of the songs on the album, it's called Our World. Very interesting tune. I'm hoping you can tell us about it.
Bad Conditions. Bad Conditions. It's dealing with what's happening in the world today, like young girls getting pregnant, on campus grounds. And even with all this electronic stuff, the dads cannot be found. And people making promises they never keep. Seem like the nation turning over in its final sleep. Well, if you turn on the news every day, you see exactly that. Another one in there says people around the world trying to find their equal rights. A man religion could cause his life. This is the truth. So we're living in bad conditions, and it seemed like we're going to have a martial law. And that's what that song is about. And I'm really hoping that people could hear it and kind of make adjustments, because both politically and self-wise, because this is where we're going. And why I was able to say that, because I've seen mostly every country in the world and how people operate. And the way we beginning to operate here in America is like most countries in the world, with all the different kinds of corruptions and all that. This is almost like a banana republic now, very far from what it was like when I was a kid. Segregation was just a gnat based on what's going on now in terms of these political parties and people who's running this country.
On the note of media, when someone is in the public eye, you've been in the public eye for your life, what do you think is the most important thing for a public figure to do?
Tell the truth. When I say tell the truth, about everything. I don't think that the world is stupid. So if there's an incident, whatever it is, be in love or marriage or whatever, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said, because you're telling the truth. And I really believe that. And I also believe that, you cannot rush the experience, because if it never happened, you can't talk about it. So why even try? You have had to have that experience to try to discuss it with someone. And maybe they never had it, so it's like talking to an empty box. If you're talking to somebody that never had the experiences that you had, it's like talking to the wall. They don't know what you're talking about. And that's kind of like what's happening in this public. You see our president keeps switching themes and things every day to keep I obviously respect him because he's a smart guy. He's doing everything he can for Donald Trump. And he's pulling wool over everybody's eyes who believe in him. Nothing he says the truth. I can guarantee you that. Nothing. I haven't heard anything other than he's want to repeal Obama. What's his name? Barack Obama. But I'm not in politics, even though I see it a lot. I have to be because around it because this is what I do. I'm in the public. So I understand exactly what's going on, but America was the most respected country on earth. I mean, every little hole or village I ever went in, they all want to come to America. You know, I don't know if it's because our dollar is the only one recognized in every little hole in the world, and people want to come here because they call this a paradise. And it was a paradise. Look at the things we've done. I mean, including bringing the world together. Mm-hmm. And once we step off that pedal, so we just like the rest of them. And that's where I see we're heading. And I don't know if music had anything to do with it because of the hip-hop community. Everybody's mad, you know, I mean, angry. And the lawyers are Smith and Western, you know, I mean, in the NARA. I mean, what's going on? And babies getting shot up. People cannot go to outside concerts. I mean, you know what I mean? They can't hear music because it's no longer sociable. They can't not gather. This is happening everywhere in the world. If you gather, you know, you're subject to a bomb or something. I mean, it's a totally different world now than it was then.
That's the truth.
It's no question.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a curveball. If you could ask Donald Trump, our president, any question, what question would you ask him?
I don't think I'll ask him a question. I'll just tell him congratulations. He was able to make people believe something that their eyes didn't see. You know, you cannot believe your lying eyes. You cannot believe what you hear because he changes that pattern and he controls the news squad every day. So people don't know what the truth is. You know, we had for years, we had a standard of truth here in our courts. You had to go to court to prove that something really happened. But this guy, I mean, he's amazing. He never showed his taxes, yet he raised taxes and eliminated a lot of stuff that he can. I mean, it's just insanity, and people buying it. I mean, we are heading for no standards. That's what I would ask him. Is he happy that you have finally put doubt in people's mind, and they going back to what they said years ago? The truth is what one believes. You've gotten them to believe lies. I want to congratulate you. I wouldn't ask him a question. That's what I would say to him. I'd congratulate him because he's managed to do it. Turn it around.
Going back to the album, This Is Rock and Roll by our guest Lloyd Price, it seems like there's a lot of variety of stuff, even in the same song sometimes. Do you listen to a wide variety of music?
Yes, I do. Not as much as I used to because it just ain't there. The music, what I believe is music, is not there. However, there's a few artists that are really good. But I go back and listen to all the things that I believed in, you know, like Sinatra, Nat Cole, Jesse Belvin, and on Nancy Wilson, Alberta, Barbara Streisand, Celine Dion. I think these are real quality voices and musicians. And I listen to Count Basie's band, the Goodman Brothers. These guys had something. They would sit down and get an idea and follow it through with a paper and pen. And then when you hear it, you were able to identify it as their music. You can hardly identify music today by the artist because it's all the same. It's all computer driven. The drum track, you know, the keyboard, the guitar, the bass, all comes from the keyboard. Not that it's not good, but it's just that there's no identity in the program or in the music. It's all the same. However, there's still a couple out there. New Orleans, the keyboard, it's got a television show now on 5. His name slips me now. But there's still a few. Even when Quincy was producing, Michael Jackson, you was able to identify that music. And you knew who that artist was during the introduction. And I see that's not to be the case today.
If you could go back and give yourself advice, if you could talk to a young Lloyd Price, what would you say to him?
Well, you have to stay focused. The only person know what the dream is you, because it's in your head. So don't get discouraged. Just stay focused and go. If you believe that you can pull this off, or you believe that this is something real and can happen, stay on it, because that's how the world was built. There was no colleges. They had horses and dogs, and they built the universe with them. Nobody could read. And they believed that this could happen. And when they went to the Wild West, nobody had ever done that before. When Columbus thought, the world thought that this was flatland, and you're going to run off it. A lot of folks didn't believe it.
Yeah.
So you got to have that same passion and commitment, to keep marching straight ahead if you intend to reach your destination.
Do you credit persistence with your success?
Absolutely. I never wanted anything else, but doing what I do, and have been fortunate enough to have done 65 years. However, there was a few other things, because I'm kind of like an entrepreneur. I want to do things, like Ali was my dear friend, and we was able to do the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire. I brought Don King along, Thriller in Manila, two of the greatest events ever happened on earth. It all happened through music, because Ali, when I would go to Louisville, I lived at this guest house just down the street from his house, and he'd see my car. He'd come down there and sit in it, and I'm going to get me one of these, blah. And I knew him since he was 20 years old, him and his brother Rudolph. He said, I want to be the greatest. I want to be the champion of the world. He did it. That was his death belief. He believed he could do it. And he went on and did. I have seen this happen, to compare it to myself. And I told him the same thing we're talking about now. If you believe it, stay focused. Don't let nobody tell you can't do it. And everybody you call yourself friends going to tell you, no, you can't do it. Every obstacle, even your parents going to tell you can't do it. You need to be doing something else. Do what you want to do, and you're going to make it.
Well, once you do succeed, it's been said by a few people that the only thing harder than failure is success. Do you believe that?
I do. And once, if you can see success coming, I think you'd run from it. because it really don't start to get crazy until you're successful. But look at all the new things you got to deal with. You got to deal with financing. You got to deal with attorneys. You got to deal with accountants. You got to deal with management. All you want to do is make music. But then you got to do all these things you never even heard of before. And that's why most artists go busted, because this is a whole different ballgame. That was never in the play, to run into all these new problems, income taxes, and, it's crazy. Employee taxes and employees' insurances. And there's a whole nother world you never prepared yourself for. All you wanted to do was do music. So you got there. Now you got this load on your back that you don't know nothing about. You don't even know the world of these people. You're dealing with high academics. You don't have the experience of education. Education was never a part of your dream. You can only have one solid one at a time. But you got it, and now you got to deal with it. So you have to learn how to deal with that. And that's why 9 out of 10 times, when the artist starts to deal with that part of his business, he loses his effect of being creative. You hardly ever hear from him again. Unless they got a base entrepreneurship where they can go and do something else and just keep following your own self pattern.
Well, on the note of entrepreneurship, I'm hoping you can tell us about how the sweet potato plays a big part in the Lloyd Price story.
Well, yes. I had always, sweet potato have always been one of my favorite foods. And my father used to make some little triangular looking things, and he put this pate. He'd make this Louisiana thing, pate or fale, whatever he called it, into a liquid, and he'll bake that in the dough, and you never taste anything different. So one night I was thinking about that. I said, maybe I'm going to try to make something I never heard of before, and that's a sweet potato cookie. So after trying it out for about 2 weeks, I thought I might have had something pretty near where a good baker could pull it out for me. And sure enough, I found this baker out in Clear Lake, Iowa, said he would try to put it together for me. And in 4 weeks, I had a cookie. And 5 weeks after that, I was on the shelves in Walmart. When I went down to Bentonville, Missouri to introduce the cookie, they said, we have 68,000 vendors. What do you think you have we don't have? You got 5 minutes. They don't give you a whole lot of time down there. So I had the box. I had everything prepared, the cookie. I showed them the package, and they ordered it that day and put me in 486 supercenters in 5 states down in the South. And I stayed with them about 4 years. It's not a deal that you make any money out of, because Walmart they take all of the money. They want you to sell to them cheap, and they sell high. And a sweet potato cookie has got a lot of, well, it's the only cookie on earth that don't have all of those false, what do you call them, the ingredients. It's the most natural cookie that anyone could eat because it's very low sugar. We're using all sweet potato ground, you ground them up and turn them into a powder, and that's the cookie. Excellent. And seal was on the box. The number one health cookie on earth is the sweet potato cookie. However, it's not over yet. I just had to figure a way how to keep it alive because I couldn't stay alive with Walmart. So I got to do what McDonald's did, with Kroc did, build my own Lawdy, Clawdy, little cafes, selling sweet potato product and desserts, dessert cafes, which I'm thinking about doing right now, and sell that cookie back to the cafe. So that's the way to get it out there, because it's all about health. And, well, since health is your life, you got to make sure, the intake of whatever you put in your body is what you are. That was the reason for the sweet potato.
Are you a competitive person?
Very. I've bowled 306 times. I'm a bowler. And, you couldn't want to be in a more competitive sport than bowling. And so I just add it all up together. That's my energy that motivates me because of my competitiveness. Why I think of what I should be doing myself. And I'm 84, and I still think like I did when I was 20.
Wow. Well, what is the best thing about being Lloyd Price?
I guess when I was a kid, an old guy told me once, he said, you know what? Out of all the people in the world, the only man you want to recognize you, a woman, is when you walk in the bank and the bank manager says, good morning, Mr. Price. Yeah, it took me a long time to believe that. But as time goes along, you run into the experience where that is very powerful. And you don't learn about power and stuff until you start, your 30s and 40s, you start to learn that power is the pathway to your happiness. And you have to learn how to use it. You don't have to be mean or selfish. You just understand this is your pathway, and you can't abuse it.
Well, one of the things about this show is we have the ability to reach people all over the globe. So for anyone who's listening in, what would you, Lloyd Price, say to those listening?
I would say that, keep living, doing the best you can, and keep your dream alive. I think Martin Luther King one time called it keep hope alive. But I think you got to keep your dream alive and going into your success. You got to be honest and truthful with yourself at all times. And usually between 20 and 30, we all tend to be great liars, about what the own self-inflicted wounds by lying. But you got to tell the truth. I think you should follow your dream, follow your path. And if you believe what you're thinking is possible, do it.
Anyone out there, if they want more information, they can visit LloydPriceMusic.com. That's LloydPriceMusic.com. I'm hoping that maybe you can sing us a line from one of your songs.
Do you know something, Paul? This throat of mine, I know you've been hearing me cough.
Yeah.
Man, I can, it's all up in my nose.
I hear you.
I'm really trying to take my time, to even discuss this with you. But I would say, 'cause you've got personality.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been a real honor.
Thank you so much, Paul. The honor has been all mine, and thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Until next time, thanks again.
Thank you.